Is Sam Bankman Fried going to jail?
Yes.
How long is he going to jail for? Hey everyone, welcome to our Trade to Black podcast. I am your host, Shad Dales. It is earnings seasons in the cannabis industry, so a lot to unfold and basically tackle this week as we see a number of companies reporting latest earnings. Some have already, and we're going to dive into some of those results as we bring in our two guests. Again, lead financial writer Benjamin A. Smith. Good to see you.
Good to be here. How you doing, guys?
Good. Anthony, good to see you. How are things?
Good to see you as well. Much better than the Maple Leafs record in the playoffs. But, yeah.
Did we officially make that bet?
Everything's going great. I don't think we did. I said Cats in 6. I at least gave you guys a little bit of respect. Ben said Leaves in 5.
No, 6.
Or you said Leaves in 5?
Leafs in 6.
No, I said Cats in 6. Ben said Leafs in 6. You said Leafs in 5. And now it's 3-0 Panthers. So we well, let's see what happens.
They're getting swept. This is gonna be a 4-game sweep.
I don't think so.
I don't know how Toronto wins. I
mean, Toronto's not gonna win, but I think they win.
No,
game
I've
4.
seen series like this. They have that. I don't see a lot. I don't know, Ben. What do you see? I don't see a lot of fight in them right now, especially with that last game performance.
I haven't watched the series, to be honest, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they won like a bounce back game because I mean they're still going to try. It's not like they're going to fold. It's their season's on the line. They should come out with something. It's like a win, right? Like one game at a time mentality. But I don't know. I'm surprised that Bob has been doing this. Really, he got bombed last year's playoffs, and he looks solid.
It's hard to close the door on a series. Like I thought this was going to be a 7-game series.
It is, unless you're the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I thought it was a 7-game series. It could have went either way.
Yeah,
but Ben's right. I mean, Bob's playing right place, right time.
You know what? The weird thing about Bob
up.
is that like he's either really good in the playoffs or he's really bad. Like in the Tampa Bay series, he was so he was so bad.
Oh, he got rocked.
And then he was been bad historically in the playoffs. But he had that one series in Washington or with Columbus that he beat. Washington. He went like to the conference finals. It's weird. Like he's very up and down.
Yeah. Well, it's their forechecking. Florida's forechecking has been incredible. Toronto's D has been exposed, and they're pinching a lot. So I don't think there's been a conservative play. And from what I've seen, Florida's just the type of team that's just waiting for you to make a mistake. And if you can make the save, like Bob is doing, turn over the other way, create an odd man rush, and there's your game. Speaking of games, we have earnings season. I don't know what you want to call that games. Before we get into that, all views of the Trade to Black podcast, the guests on this podcast appear the opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or guests as investment advice. And the views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Okay, as I said off the top, earnings season as it continues. Last week we touched on Curaleaf. This week, both Trulieve and Verano will have earnings later this week. In addition to them, a darling in the space that's getting a lot of attention that has flown under the radar of the last while is MariMed, and they reported latest earnings this week, and some of the highlights included their gross margins increased by 1% quarter over quarter. However, revenue was down 4% sequentially. They swung to a very small net loss from a small income net gain from last quarter. However, guidance stayed the same, staying on course to achieve $150 million in revenue this year. So all in all, Ben, would you describe this latest quarter as saying, quote, hanging in there, given the times that we're in right now? Like, is this in some ways a win for the company?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to describe it. I think it's sort of a hang in there kind of quarter, in line with what we saw in with the big MSOs this last quarter. People are just trying to hang in there. I mean, cannabis products are down in the pricing area. It's a constrained market for consumer spending, so we see less purchasing there. So it's a challenging environment still, but I think the main thing is they kept their guidance for the full year, and that's important. So they're still on course of what they said they would achieve, a couple months ago during the last quarter. So that's really the main thing. I don't think it's important. You should get in the weeds of down 4% sequentially and all that much. They're still maintaining guidance for the full year, and I think it's a hanging quarter overall, right? And gross margins did increase 1%, which is a net positive as well.
So you look at this as a small win for the company then?
Yeah, basically. like a hanging quarter. I think it's in line with what we've seen in the sector, and I don't see any alarm or anything like that. I think it's a hanging quarter. Yeah, it's a good way to describe it.
Anthony, how you view it?
I think I'm with Ben. I mean, I think that they're there. They're surviving. I mean, it wasn't a bad quarter. It wasn't an outstanding quarter. They're business as usual. I like that they kept their guidance. They kept the guidance of 150 million in revenue for the year. I think hitting a margin of around 38%. So I mean, if they hit those metrics and they sustain what they're guiding for the year, I mean, I think it's a good job.
Well, be interesting to learn more. I'm speaking with the CFO Susan Valera actually later this week about latest earnings. But lots going on, that's for sure. Elsewhere, a company that really hasn't gotten very much attention over the past few years, with a lot, let's say, south of the border, because that's where a lot of the tension has been. But Cronos, they reported their latest earnings, and their revenue fell 12% sequentially. However, they did outline that they have, get this, $836 million in cash. We pushed out a tweet earlier this week that received a lot of attention, outlining how the company is a sleeper in the industry. So, Anthony, if we see movement from Washington, do you see this Canadian company being a major player in the U.S. market?
Major player, I think it's yet to be determined, but they definitely have the cash to pick up assets. Whether it's going to be in the U.S., whether it's going to be Europe, whether they're going to double down in Israel, they have the money and they have the capital to deploy. I mean, I think they've been waiting for the cannabis sector to kind of take that. I mean, to come down on the S curve. I mean, the management team's obviously been very patient. They've got big relationships with tobacco companies, and they've got this massive stockpile of cash. I wouldn't be surprised if they come into the U.S. and buy a couple of assets or make a major acquisition and take some assets off of some tier one MSOs balance sheets. I think obviously it's yet to be determined, but I wouldn't be. I mean, they're going to do something with it. They have to. It's not just going to sit there and collect interest in a money market account. So I mean, I think the time is getting closer to where they'll deploy. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move in the next 9 to 12 months. If this hearing goes well and if we start to see some real momentum on the regulatory front in the U.S., it could obviously be a compressed time frame, and you'll see something quicker.
Yeah, I think so. It's a good way to describe it. Yeah, no, I think we've touched on it previously. I think they're one of the smarter LPs in Canada, just in terms of not overspending like some of the other companies, their competitors like Canopy Growth and all that. I mean, they went from $5 billion cash position to now needing to raise money versus convertible debt and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they've been they made a few acquisitions like Ginkgo Bioworks, a couple other things, but they've been small and they've been conserved most of their balance sheet. So although I'm not crazy about their core business, they're not exactly performing great. I mean, it's in line with other LPs. I mean, it's flat to declining growth or whatever. They're maintaining their balance sheet, so they're ready to strike when the opportunity knocks, and that could be, I think, Becerra downgrades to or reschedules cannabis to Schedule 3. I think that will be the signal where it's time to get in, no 280E exemption, and move forward from there.
So just to understand how that works, if this is rescheduled to a Schedule 3, does that then allow Canadian companies to enter into the U.S. market?
Well, I think they can enter whenever they want. It doesn't make really a lot of sense to enter now. I know some have done it before, like Canopy and Tilray and stuff like that. But the businesses that they're buying aren't necessarily profitable. They're just they found acquisitions they liked and pulled the trigger in anticipation of further reform down the road. But if you're subject to 280E, obviously that's a huge drag on your earnings quality. And I think Cronos is sort of held off. Waiting for the right opportunity to strike, and that could be the moment.
Huh. I found it interesting last week, you and Rob speaking about how could safe banking, the hearing, be rushed a little bit because of what's going on with these banking fiascos right now. And I know there was some feedback of people that commenting on that and if that was true or not. But how much do you believe in that, or is that just thinking a little too much?
Yeah, I've been reading some of the posts and some of the comments and all that. First, I want to say that Yeah, I don't know if this was lost in translation, but a company like Polaris Equity Group is actually going to do very well under a safe banking infrastructure because they're a specialty use lender, right? So they have the proprietary data system. They can, they have the best in class in terms of that. So even if safe banking occurs and more banks are allowed to participate in the sector or choose to, they're not really going to lose their position, I don't think, from where they sit.
No.
They're still going to lend. They're still going to have tons of opportunities, and they're going to make probably a lot more money on the warrants that they carry as part of the deals and some of the privcos that are now in a thriving market that go public, right? They own some of the underlying shares part of the deals on those. So maybe there's a misconception that a private lender doesn't want safe, but I think everybody benefits if that happens.
Pay attention, right? Pay attention. Anthony, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I don't think there's any correlation between the expedited rhetoric around safe and what's currently going on with the banks. I don't think they care, to be honest. I think it'd be great. It's great that the conversation's happening, but what's going on with the stress and the SMBs in the U.S. it's not going to be alleviated by cannabis capital coming into the equation.
Yeah, well, they need something and some sort of momentum. But speaking of this banking fiasco, major Canadian bank TD is currently the most shorted bank stock in the world. In the world, I was reading this. So let's get our viewers up to speed, Ben. Why is this stock being shorted so much? Do you know?
I haven't gone in the weeds too much about it, but I know they carry they have some. I think they have interests in some banks in the U.S. that are not doing so well, some of the regionals, and they have they carry a pretty high load of commercial real estate, which is obviously under pressure, and that's something that's not going away anytime soon. For viewers out there, there's a fundamental shift in the value of commercial real estate because simply workers aren't going back to work, more hybrid systems. And even like vacancy rates in some of these big cities like San Francisco are still 30% 3 years after or 2 years after the bulk of COVID went through. So banks are under pressure, and I think Barclays downgraded like 5 Canadian banks this morning to underweight, so not even neutral. So some of the investment banks aren't that bullish out there.
You agree with that, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, the short interest in TD was brought on by their deal with First Horizons. That's come under scrutiny since SVB and First Republic and the SMB crisis happened. And then, I mean, right now I think they have around $6.1 billion in short against them, which is a 45% increase over like the past month. So, I mean, investors are getting more aggressive. They're kind of kicking them when they're down, and they're going to pile those short positions on with this potential failed acquisition that people were looking forward to. I hope TD's going to survive. I mean, TD probably will survive. I wouldn't be touching the banking sector as a whole right now. I mean, PacWest Bancorp has been a yo-yo. It was down, I think, 40% one day last week. It was up 8% yesterday. It just keeps going up and down with the rest of the KRE index.
In a nutshell, why are we seeing this banking fiasco everywhere?
Because they borrowed, what was it? They borrowed they short-term deposits, and then they borrowed long, and they didn't hedge out their interest rate exposure, and they now are basically upside down. I mean, it's the U.S. monetary policy experiment.
Yeah.
We're coming to find out that a system that is built on credit and leverage has great inefficiencies, has cyclical crises usually about every 8 to 10 years, and doesn't really work for what it's built to do.
Yeah. One of the things I also want to talk about too is just like, look, there's a lot of investors out there right now that want to learn about AI, and ChatGPT obviously has been creating a ton of news everywhere. But we're already starting to see like the first arrests in like China for people that are like spreading like fake news. I know it's tough to predict the future, but when you think about privacy issues with people, and the data that you're being collected, this whole AI, I guess, era that we're about to enter, these are crazy times that we're about to enter. Like, how much do you see AI basically changing the entire workforce and people's lives? Like, I don't even know how to envision where this is going.
I mean, you're seeing job cuts already, but I mean, let's take a step back. AI's been controlling our lives for probably the last 10 to 15 years. I mean, everything on your phone is run by an algorithm that's suggesting and telling you what to do. You now can just interact with it as far as like, it's not a base layer. It's now something that you can interact with and can manipulate and use in everyday life.
But this is a whole new.
I mean, AI is
this is a whole new level.
AI is not. It is a whole new level, but it's not new. It's just now. It's now here, per se. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem going into the 2024 election. It's going to be a big problem with fake news.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of people are arguing that blockchain is important, provenance is important, tokenization of things, and being able to immutably prove their source of truth or their point of origination is important. I think there's going to be tokenization of media. Blockchains can be used for a lot of things. They're not going to be used just for fucking monkey pictures and meme coins and just speculation. There are real world applications that are going to be built. They're going to intersect with AI, and it's going to allow a system where the tech is going to be able to detect AI. Tech is going to be able to tell you if something is fake or if something is real, and where its point of origination is from. I mean, we're not there, but we're going there. And AI is going to be, I look at AI as you either are going to learn how to interact with it and how to utilize it, or you're kind of going to get left in
responsibility is going to be at the forefront.
The responsibility is there, but I mean, right now, like I'm using AI tools in my everyday workflow, and it's made me more productive. I don't have to count on as many people. Yep. I mean, it's eliminated redundancies. Do I think it's going to slash a lot of jobs? Yeah. It's probably also going to create a lot of jobs.
It'll create a lot of jobs, but is there enough people to, I guess, reinventing themselves is always a difficult thing to do when you're talking about global population. But with the amount of jobs that AI replaces, do you think that there's a lot of opportunities within that field that can actually provide opportunities for people that, quote unquote, need to reinvent themselves?
No, probably not. But I mean, it's not my problem. I mean, it's a tough thing. This is a tough thing to talk about because I mean, you're talking about people's well-beings. You're talking about like a huge paradigm shift in the way that we operate as a species, and I mean, AI is going to change that. It's already changing it for the better, or for the worse. The rabbit's out of the hat, and we're going down that rabbit hole whether we like it or not. So you might as well learn how to use it. Learn how to utilize it, and hope that it doesn't come for your general well-being, because it already has for a lot of people.
Ben, did you see that announcement last week? The Godfather of AI, basically Google's AI pioneer, Geoffrey Hinton, quit Google and wants to talk about just the dangers of AI and basically educate people on how to be responsible. But what was your thoughts when you saw, quote unquote, the Godfather of AI quit a major company like Google?
Yeah, well, I did see that piece of news, and he's not the first one. There's been a couple other high-profile people to sound off on it, including Elon Musk. Actually, he got like 1,800 signatories in April, and to basically question AI and to make sure that to put a moratorium on things like ChatGPT. That's what he was saying. And, there's 1,800 signatories to that. So there's some high-level people sounding the alarm. And, I'm a little uneasy, to be honest. I've said it on the program before. Just, AI is good in a lot of ways. It's going to help productivity, but there's going to be a lot of destruction here. There's going to be jobs created from AI as well, but there's going to be a lot more lost than is, being done. And it's not just, like ChatGPT, it's also like physical stuff to warehouse workers and stuff like that. It's just evolution, right? And we're at the the fifth generation of it. This generation it's going to replace humans more than allow them to be productive. It's going to do both. It's going to allow humans to be productive, but it's going to replace a lot more people than previous technological advances done.
Times are a changing. Sam Bankman Fried, he hopes times start changing, but This guy pleaded not guilty and asked to get 10 out of the 13 criminal charges against him thrown out, which all pertain to fraud. Never a dull moment with this guy, Anthony, when it comes to Sam Bankman Fried. What do you make of this?
I mean, to be honest, if I was in his position, I'd probably be pleading not guilty as well, hoping to bring it to court. So, I mean, the headline's not too shocking. It's just kind of very humorous that the gall of the gentleman and his attorney. I mean, what I found most interesting is his attorney said that his client is only sitting here with all of these counts against him because it was a rush judgment. There were plenty of other crypto companies that failed in the time that FTX failed. Sure, that's correct. There were a lot of other companies that failed, but they weren't funneling consumer deposits to their sister hedge fund that the principal of the company was also owning. Like, there's egregious fraud in the open that took place at FTX. Yeah. Like, there's no way that Sam gets off from this. I don't think you can litigate your way out of this. Like, it's there, and the beautiful thing is it's all on chain. So it's there in the open for people to for people to see. I think that trial is going to be heavily watched. I'm obviously going to watch it, and a lot of people are going to be looking forward to it. Yeah, it's just funny that he's back in the news again.
Okay, so my question, is Sam Bankman Fried going to jail?
Yes.
How long is he going to jail for, you think?
I mean, Elizabeth Holmes is looking at, 13 years, and she was pretty analogous to what he did. The difference is that she was fraudulent, and she took money from venture capitalists and from billionaires and from people in the government. And Sam Bankman Fried took all the money from fucking Main Street. So, I mean, a jury, a judge, I think they're going to rule much differently in that case. I would guess that he does somewhere between 10 and 50.
Ooh.
I mean, look at Madoff. He's Madoff. He was just as big of a fraud as Madoff.
Mm-hmm.
Madoff got life.
They're going to basically use him as an example. And that was a hell of an example.
Unless the conspiracies are true and he really has that big of a deep influence in the system and in the government, and something happens one way or another, which I don't suspect will happen. I think they're going to make an example out of him.
I don't think that's a conspiracy.
But I think he goes to jail.
He actually did, funnel a lot.
Oh, no. But I mean that they're actually in his. Yeah. But I mean that they're actually in his pocket to the point where he could move pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to go to jail for a very long time.
Me too. All right, gents. By the way, for all of our viewers out there, we're doing a contest beginning next week on Twitter. We're going to be giving away an Apple iPhone, big iPhone giveaway. So we'll have all the details and how you can enter in. But make sure you follow us at The Dales Report on Twitter. We're going to have all the contest details out later this week. Contest begins next Monday. So interesting times, to say the least, on this earnings season with cannabis. But I'll be interested to see how things unfold with Trulieve and Verano later this week. But before we have any parting ways for today, anything you're looking for with both of those companies, Ben?
No, not really. Actually, I'm looking for more just like in line, right? If EPS can be what consensus is and revenue about consensus, and gross margins are about where they were last quarter, not too much erosion or even a slight gain like we saw with MariMed, then I think that's all we really can expect, right? It's still a tough environment out there, and I think it's a tread water type of quarter. We've seen it with basically everybody this past quarter. So
as much as there's not much there, that's exactly what you're looking for. You echo that, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for in line. I mean, I'm also looking to see what the harvest assets are doing that they've acquired. I'm hoping that the sales haven't deteriorated too much. I'm also hoping that Florida sales are stabilized. This is for Trulieve, by the way, not Verano. But yes, I'll be looking at those key points, hoping they're in line and taking it from there.
Good stuff. All right, gents, we'll check in with you later this week.
Awesome. Talk soon. Cats in 4.
Yeah, good point. Cats in. I said a sweep off the top, and you said no. I agree.
Cats in 4.
Cats in 4. And Kyle Dubas will be fired the next day. You're calling it. Or later this week. Next week, maybe, Ben. All right, guys. Check it out. Checking out.
Talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.